Wow, how did we get to this? From this. I had to use a primer for tropical woods with a curious feature. This primer is a tannin blocker. I'll talk a little more about this primer later. This is one of the pieces of the tropical wood board of the garden table that I restored in a previous video. And well, it already had several layers of paint. Being a very hard and resistant tropical wood, it was only a bit rotten here at the tip. The thing is, when sanding, the paint came off quite easily. It was noticeable that it was not well adhered to the wood. So I did a little research and discovered that these very hard tropical woods can sweat tannins for a very long time. Tannins are a substance that helps trees protect themselves, and tropical woods are very rich in tannins. The problem is that paints, varnishes, and other products sometimes do not adhere well to these very hard woods. Therefore, it may be advisable to apply a tannin blocker. And no, the teak garden furniture probably doesn't need it. For those pieces of furniture, teak oil is usually enough. Let's go through the whole process. With a medium grit sander, I removed all the paint. I went over all the wood with the sander and fine grit sandpaper. And finally, I went over everything by hand with very fine sandpaper. We already saw in a previous video that I numbered all the pieces to know where each one goes. I cleaned the dust well. And I'm going to apply the primer. The can says that I cannot stir it vigorously because it can create bubbles and foam. I apply it well all over the wood, and I spread it well with long brush strokes. I place the piece on the rods that I use to separate them from the table while they dry, and I paint the top face and spread the tannin blocker well. To avoid that mark like a layer underneath, I apply the primer. I want it to re-moisten and blend well, so I insist a bit until the color is homogeneous. You can see that it foams a bit, but no problem. With some long brush strokes, I spread the primer well. What I did was that when I finished painting one piece, I went over the primer on the top face of the two previous pieces. As I said, the original paint gave the impression of being poorly adhered to the wood, probably because of the tannins. This tannin blocking primer has the advantage of helping the paint applied on top to dry better and adhere better to this type of wood, in addition to preventing tannin stains, which sometimes appear on these woods. When the primer is dry, I can apply the protective stain for exterior wood of the same brand, minimum 2 coats and maximum 3 coats. This one is water repellent and protects against fungi and mold. This type of product, even though it is transparent, when applied creates a whitish layer, but when it dries, it becomes completely transparent. I apply it and spread it well. I let the protective stain dry and apply a second coat to all the pieces. Yes, they stick a bit to the wooden rods they rest on. No problem. When the pieces are dry enough to handle, I separate them and let them finish drying. To see the entire process of restoring the metal base and the wooden board of the garden table, I leave the links to the videos in the description. Thanks for watching the video. And if you like my videos, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell.